All right. Let me try to go back again for some of the requirements that you want to be shown here. So I'll continue this project from where it started. Okay. And hopefully you can continue working on it. So from this point, I have here the sales order. This is from the main project, the project that I've shared in Zoom, wherein there's a sales order transaction in there. So as you can see, just to go and review back. So here I have here we have the menu here, right? Again, you can change this menu to something that you're comfortable with, that you want to probably adjust. Okay. So there are actually some special buttons that you can add. In fact, if you cannot find a button that you want to utilize, you can always use something like an image. Let's say, for example, let's see, there are several here, but I will not spend so much time. Again, I'll give you the freedom to come up with your own menu. But I will do that one later. I'll just focus first on the transactions. So in here, we have the sales order transaction, which will display the sales order main. And let me just discuss a little bit again on how I went through with this process. So there are several approaches in programming. You can always come up with your own strategy, but so far this has been the simplest approach I can offer, not because uh, it's easier to do, but because it's easier for you to implement. Okay. So in this case, when I click on the new sales order, we expect that this is a new sales order, right? So when that new sales order is generated, we expect that there's a new sales order ID that will be assigned to it. Okay. So what happened here is that in this case, when we click the sales order, the process that we're trying to do is that we temporarily inserted so for the sales order to work, what I have here is I inserted insert uh, record to uh, the order table. So in this case, uh, the sales order table is the order table in Northwind, as you can see from here. So I believe I have that here uh, in MySQL. So if you look at your MySQL, you will see the orders table here. So as you can see, there are several columns in there, and you have to take into consideration what. So you can actually look into considering 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 into what we can do so far in this particular table. Sarasa, diri, pwede ra. Magawas ako sa akong first year nga klase. Sa may akong dalon. Christine? Huh? So kamong tulo, o kamong upat bali. Mo man na pud si Kuan, si Jones. Okay, so ugma 3 o'clock sa. Ako na ni calendar week sa maliyan magpo. So, inyo rang gi-NC-ran tong kuan? Si survey. Pag grading sheet day, nag-print mo? Oy, nagpapel mo? Okay, okay. Hmm? Dili. PD day, na ba day mo yung link na viewable sa public? Corporate nga account. So, export ra. Ah, man siguro, eh. Ha? Wala. Ano man? Report summary. Kanina day, sa users day. Kanina yung sa team, imo ra day mo imong i-select. Reports. Kana og na mo access ani. Kani ako ara mo yung account. Pwede yung pod by client. Isa raman yung client. Masa man? O di Globic PH sa pa yung i-select. Pero, oh ba? Maski kini na niya ang option. Unless dili ni visible sa ordinary user. Pwede ra po ni mo hangyoon sila. Ipa-export ang inyo ang time logs. I think mo naghihimo ilang kuan. Kato na sa Globic last year. So 3 p.m. So okay. Damat to para bude kus duha. So, kasi kulang lang aircon. Yawa po ron. Amo. Ha? Ah, so you are good. Mo ba? Next month mo ng graduation. Aw, sabi na ako. Okay, so basically the idea here is that we want to insert a record, and when we insert the record, there's an order that will be created. So basically, in reality, this could just be a temporary table first before you actually insert the orders of that uh, particular customer. But in this case, what we did is that we inserted a record to the sales order in order for the table to create a new sales order ID. Okay. Uh, in that way, we can utilize that order ID when we display it in the sales order details. So when we have a new order here being displayed, we can already see the sales order ID. Now that is based on the last entry. So last entry of the sales order. Now, in this case, it's going to be a conflict if you're going to imagine what if the last order was coming from a different user. You know what I mean? So the last order, the last sales order that was being transacted by a particular was coming from a different sales employee. So that means if the last order ID is actually 10, this was the one that you entered, but then another entry was actually created, which was, let's say, entered by an employee named John. So when you query for the last record and entered, what will be the result? It's going to be 11 and not 10, right? So in this case, we have to come up with a solution. So we can come up with filtering. We add an additional filter in our SQL query by adding the employee ID. So that means to say that by the time the user, so let's say for example, by the time the user let's say we have a login screen here, right? Now so what happens then is that when that particular, when we have that particular uh, employee ID, it has to be utilized already. So when you log in, the employee ID will be utilized as a global variable uh, throughout the entire session of the user, which will be utilized across different forms. So in that way, we can come up with a global, okay, uh, a global unit which will serve as a storage for a global values. So let's just say, for example, here, let me add something here. Let me see. That's a panel. Let me add a status bar. Now, the status bar actually stays at the very bottom of the screen. Okay. So usually, let me just change this one to none first, and then the status bar moves at the bottom, and then let's put this one bottom part. Okay, let's just switch that one. So here we have here, let's just say status bar. Okay, and then in the status bar there are actually different. You can actually create different panels here. Okay, so the first panel would be the emp ID, for example. Okay, you have that one as the employee ID. Okay, you can utilize that one. And then another panel would be for, so the first one, let's allocate that one 200. So you see the bar is actually dividing this. So this is actually quite useful. So for the next one, let's just say uh, this is your sales and inventory system version 1.0. Sorry, it should be in the text. Let's just have 300 and let's put in the text. So it gives us the version name of the system. And then the third one, this could be your date and okay. So for this, uh, let's just use the text date that one later on. So let me just utilize here uh, those texts. So the employee ID that we have here is something that we can assign later on. So as you can see, the value that we have there. So for example, when this form is loaded, so let's say we click on the form. When this one is created rather, so we have status, we can assign a status bar. You can assign a status bar value that uh, items 0 is equal to, let's say, 00. Let's just say the username. Let me use, my username is Larry Vincent, for example. But I think you can use there the, sorry, Mm, the text. So when you have it loaded, you see the Larry Vincent at the bottom. Okay, so that is where we place the value of, then it's visible for someone to see already who's the current user of the application. So, but aside from that one, I'm gonna add here another unit that allows us to utilize a global container. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna save this one as global global vars. Global vars. So global vars we'll have here, let's implement here some var current user string. Sorry, here. Current user, current ID, user ID, depending on what you're using there. Let's try to look at the table in our employees. So in our employees, we have there the ID as the primary key, right? So using the employees table, we have their ID. Now, let's just utilize Nancy then. So for the meantime, how do we use now the global variables? Now, again, we are gonna access that one from the main form. And again, we have The same way as when we are using forms, if it's a new form and this main form will access that form, therefore we need to use unit. So let me add a use unit toolbar for global vars. In that case, when we have this one, now let's just say since we have not created any login screen yet, we are going to utilize that particular. So we're use current user ID. Will assign what is that current user ID equals 1. So as you can see, it doesn't cause any error anymore because that current user ID is global. Now, when we have, so the same goes with the sales order here. When we have the new sales order, almost every form will be needing that global variables in order to access that current user ID, right? So in this case, remember when we created this one, remember we have to come up with a temporary entry, right? So what we will do is that here we clear the items. Now we are here in the sales order ID. Now we can have one here, but then take note, we have to change that one to the current user ID. Okay. Now it turns red because we have not used the global bars for it. So basically the logic here is that when you log in and the current user ID variable has a value assigned to it, then the value will be will be accessible across any form as long as you use the unit. So in that way, you now have the user ID. So when we query that one, we select the ID from orders. Where? So we have to now add uh, a where this time. So we can have param by name ID that integer current user ID. Let me see. Param by name. And then from orders, where I was our employee ID there. In the orders table, we have their employee underscore ID. Okay. Where employee underscore ID is equal to, or let me just utilize that one. So we're going to use the same like that. So this is how you access it. So basically, when we now filter, we will only get the last entry that we inserted to the order table. Did you get that? So that way, we will get the correct last record that we have added into the system. So let's say, for example, in this case, pretty much I think all the orders here are all coming from the same customer, I believe. Let's see. I mean, for all the same employee, but let's try. So by the way, you can change here you can look at here the number of pages when you are viewing your records so that you can see the address. So right now the last entry was 82, and I think that's coming from me. Let's try to see if we will see a display of 83 here. New sales order. There you are. You have 83. Okay. So you can now add so we can have some kind of improvement here. So let's say if I add items, okay, you can see that one. So right now now there are, in adding, this is the shortcut that I added. Let me show you the code with that one earlier. But what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to apply, I think I have discussed to some of you to utilize, what do you call this? To utilize an edit box that can be hidden. I place an edit box inside a panel, and then that can be hidden. Now, that's not really the best case that you can apply. The other option we can use is to use an input box, okay, for searching products. So, searching products and adding quantity, you use input box. There are several options. Use another form, Okay, you can also do that one. That one is quite just another extra form, but its primary purpose is just like it will act as a pop-up. Okay, but for the meantime, I will use an input box here. Okay, so let me try to search for Delphi input box example so that it will be much faster for us. So here, it normally generates several examples, but I always like the one from Delphi Basics because it simplifies a lot of things here. So here, the value here is he's asking for the type, please type your town, okay, until the value is not equal to, so what basically we just copy this one here, okay, and that one is entered. Okay, let me just close this one. And then in the search form, this is the search form. Remember, we have, when you double click on it, we have the products here and the unit price automatically 5 siya. We did not request for an entry of the quantity. So we can actually utilize here we create a new variable. Let's say input y, that would be integer. And then let me replace this one. So usually input box, the value of input box is a string. So we have to convert that one. So for example here, it would be str to int, and it will request product quantity. Let's say product quantity. Please enter number of items. So the minimum there is 1. So I'm just setting it to 1. And then I'll just add here the closing parenthesis. And then we use the input quantity as our parameter here. Okay. So let me just set this input quantity to 0, just to be sure. All right. And then let's try again. So sales order transactions, sales order 84. Let me choose a company. I press F5. I just added that one. I will remember that one. So let's say here, Trader Walnuts. See, please enter the number of the one here is a default value. Let's say I just add 5. The value is 5. Let me add another item. Let's say a mustard. Let's say 10. And there you are. Okay. Now I will add here the computation. Okay, so that would be easier for you as well to to do the computation. In here, let's also add prepared by. So this value here should not be changed. Okay. So in order for that value not to be changed, we can actually set that one to. So let's say, for example, the current user ID there is the current, you will utilize current user. So current user will utilize current user here as Larry Vincent. Okay. Right. Larry Vincent. And then that current user, once the sales order is loaded, once we have a new sales order, we now set that particular this edit box to, let's say, EDT employee, just to make it easier. And then this will be read only. See that? It has to be true. That means it cannot be modified. So we now assign EDT employee.text with the corresponding current user. So Silari Vincent will be appearing there when we do the new transaction. You see that? All right. So let's do the computation. I think the computation I have shared to some of you how to do the computation, but I'll discuss that one here. So when you do the computation, it's actually not that hard. So you have to go back to your, let's say, remember you have your order details, for example. So in your order details, you look at the table. You have already the units, the quantity, and the unit price. So you have to multiply. Let me just go for. So let's say product times um, so try to look at the product ID here. Select product ID. Product ID. Then wait. Times unit price times quantity. Okay, is that the only one? If you look at the orders table, try to look at, let's say, under 84. Uh, oh, the details are not saved yet. I see, I see. Uh, sorry, order details. Look at order details. So we should be seeing here 280, 284s. You see that? So order ID 84 in your sales order details. So sales order details or group ID is 84. Group by product ID. There should be two actually displayed here. Let's try again. If you compare that one, 84 is only computing for the last entry here. 10 times 13. So we have to review that query. So product ID, unit price, uh, group by product ID. Yeah, that should be correct. Group by product ID, where ID, order ID. See, order ID is equal to 84. So as you can see, the ID is not unique here, but I mean, the ID is unique, meaning that the sales order details ID, not the sales order ID. So we have to use the sales order ID, which is 84. So order ID, go, then there you are. You have the product ID. Now you're not done here yet because in your table, you have to come up with a much better presentation of how you display your data. So let's just do, you look at the structure there. You see that one, right? Now we have to join this one. You have to join this one on inner join on products table. So in order for things to be much easier, you have to come up with, uh, I'm going to utilize some shortcut here or aliasing using alias. So I'm going to use OD for order details and P for products. So in that case, the product ID here will be coming from OD. The unit price is coming from OD. And the quantity is also coming from OD because this is actually these fields are coming from the order details. That's why we have OD here, right? OD. Now we have to add a product name. So P dot name. So if you look at the products table, try to view that one in a separate tab. You have the product code and the product name. So we can display P dot product code, P dot product name. Okay, now it's still locking here because we have to link the two tables. So which fields is linking between the products on the order details? So InnerGen products P on OD dot product ID equal to P dot product dot product. Oh no, sorry. P dot. I think it's already ID now. Yeah, ID, not product code. P dot ID. Now, if you run that one, if you go, okay, let me just double check. There's an error in the query. Let's try to see ODW. There's a W. Okay. So we have to transfer that where. Ah, so in the where, he didn't know where the order ID is coming from. So you have to add OD from that one. And then OD also for the product ID. So all the fields in this case then will have to have the corresponding source or the parent. Because for example, for the product ID, it is coming from products table. If it's coming from the order details table, well, the product ID is equal to the ID in the products table. So I hope you get that one. So this time, still having an error. What's happening? P that comma. So sometimes those are just minor. Oh my goodness. What's happening here? Maybe he wants this one to be inner join products. Sorry. That's better. So this time the data presentation is much more visible already. So product ID subtotal. So you are going to put that in your query here. I'm gonna add that one in your details table. So as you can see, we have already added that one here, but we're going to update that one with something. So we have already ODID, product ID, product code, product name, list price, quantity, discount. Okay. Now we are going to add the subtotal. You have to add a subtotal here after the discount. Okay. Actually, subtotal, you can even add a computation there, for example, to add minus OD that discount, for example. You can do that one. So you want to try that one, you can go here as well. So for example, you have that subtotal, and then let's say you have a discount, for example. Let's say there's a computation minus the discount, which was in percentage. So you have to make into consideration already the value equivalent. So let's say 50 pesos, then you must have a corresponding value for that one. So it's already 65. But then again, it doesn't go because it's gonna apply 50 to all the items there. So you have to consider using the value should you have discount provided there. So do we have discount in the orders table? Discount, where is that? Order details, do you have discount? Okay. So the discount there, this time you can apply, you modify the code and apply OD that discount like that. So in that way, it will go along accordingly. It will only apply the particular discount to that particular product and quantity. So that's what we have here. So we can apply that one OD discount as the subtotal. Where order ID, and I'm going to add here the employee ID as well to current ID, current user ID. Okay. So let's add that one equal to, okay, let me try running that again. It's already an integer. No need to convert. So sales order, new sales order. Oh, we have an unknown column there. Let me try to review that one. So as you can see here, he cannot identify where the employee ID is coming from. So you have to add OD dot and OD dot. Okay. OD, that's fine. They're not case sensitive, so that's okay. So let's try running again. Oh, wait. Is there no employee ID here? Look at the orders table. Not the OD. Sorry. No need for this one. This one should be added in the other side. Sorry. So that should be good already. Yeah. Here we're just only after of the employee ID. Okay, that should be good. All right, now save. Save. How do we save this one? Technically, what we are going to save there is uh, the part in the top portion, because for the sales order details, we have already inserted that into the table. So we need the customer ID. We have already employee ID, so we need the order date and the order status to be added. So we have, if you look at the orders table, so we need a customer ID, order date. Well, you can do the ship date, the ship name. For now, we'll leave that one blank. We can add that one later. The shipping fee and so on. You can add that one, but I'll focus on the customer ID and the order date. Okay. So for the order date, actually, this should be coming, or this is normally formatted accordingly. Order status. Do we have order status there? I believe we do. Okay. So where's that one? Do you have order status? I believe there is. Uh, Order date, status ID. So in this case, he has a status ID, which is coming from the order status, which is coming from here. So if you look at the order status here, you have new, invoice, ship, and close. So you just assign a value here based on the ID. So what we can do then, so we have added the details already in here in our add items. Okay, this is for the display. Select OD, product code, product ID. Okay. I think those are good. So this time we're going to save. So that's a new entry. So if we'll try to use this concept again. So in the save button, did we have this here? Not yet. Let's try to save SO. Okay. Okay, let's try to utilize the same, just checking. So this time with sales order. So actually, in this case, since we are about to close the list, we can actually utilize the sales order details here because we're about to close the table. And in fact, We do not want to, because as you can see here, we're try to use the sales orders. And then I think we're also using the same in the, let me just double check. We're also using it in the sales order table. When you click new, what happens? Did you see the list of sales orders? They're actually gone, right? So I think it's best that we utilize a new data set for displaying only. So let me add a new data set in the data module here. So I'm going to add here a data module just for the purposes of list view or lists. So QRY, let me just name this one QRY sales order listing. Okay, that way that would be much better. So in our listing here, we can utilize sales order apps listing, sales order listing. Okay, so we can then utilize that one here by using sales order listing. Okay, let's try that. So you should not destroy the listing when we have that one. You see the difference? Our list retains because we did not utilize the data set in our code. Then we can add items there. We'll just work on the save. So here, we now work on the saving portion. So let's utilize the QRY sales order. So remember, we have utilized this one here where we inserted. We can bring that in actually. All of those. We just have to indent it. So that way it's much ideal. So here we have already the employee ID. Okay. But still, this time, we now have to consider this one is the one who created the employee. Now we have other considerations here. If you look at the orders table, let me just double check if there's a specific person assigned to updating it. No, it should be added actually. So we only have here the last employee ID, meaning to say the employee ID here is the one creating the transaction. But later on, you have to add a specific for the updating of that particular record. But for now, we'll utilize that one. So here we have to consider adding order date. Let me double check. Order underscore date. Then customer ID. So let me just put this in order accordingly. I'll skip the others for now. The payment type, you can do that one later. Okay. So this time, to make things much easier, you can utilize it this way. Employee ID, customer ID, order date. Okay. So you can add here. It's actually, I prefer it this way because it's actually much easier. Order date. So currently our customer ID is coming from the EDT sales order ID. Okay. So that's the source of our value. And as you can see, this is an integer field. So you have to convert it to uh, the text. Since this is a text, so you have to convert this one into an str to int value. Order date, let's try to experiment now. You can use this one as now, and then let's try it to work if this will work. Let's see. Then let's do a close here. Close. So this will, so if you add, let's have the message dialog here displayed. Do we have some message dialog? I think in the search, we have here a message dialog that we have saved. Let me just utilize this one. Um, Sales order. A new sales order successfully saved. Okay, let's see. Sales order, new. Of course, we don't have a customer ID. We locate for it. We add new items. Chai, let's just one. Another item. That should not be zero. So in this case, you see that one? This is another thing that you have to work on. It needs to be, you should be able to update this one. Okay. So you can do that one later. Let me just proceed first. Just want to try 5. You see that one? There's a subtotal already. So when you save, you look at this one, orders constraint. This means that there might be something wrong with your customer ID. So the current customer ID is 90. Sorry. I am looking at the sales order. That's my fault. I think I got that wrong. I was looking, it should be EDT underscore customer ID. EDT customer ID. That okay. I think that's my mistake. Let's try again. Sales order, new sales order. Okay, F5. Okay, F5, F5. Okay, so the discount there. That's what you have. Save. New order successfully saved. Close. So you should be able to see your listing here. Now you should be able to view that one. Okay. So you can either double click and add a button there. So let's see, we can add a button here to display the details of that one. Let's just say view sales order. So this time we're only after viewing the sales order. Take note here, when you add a button using a copy paste, it will utilize the code from the previous button. So you make sure you delete that one and then rename the button name BTN view SO. So when you double click, when you go to the events, there should be empty. And when you double click, it creates that new one. So technically we can utilize the details here, but this time we utilize only view. So basically you'll just copy paste again. So we'll just have to take note when the form is loaded, everything will be captured. So this time we'll have a new parameter added here. So okay, if, okay, this is the end of if actually, end of if. So this is where we can add else, else if, begin end. So we'll try to copy this one actually. Self dot hint is equal to view sales order. Okay, so this time you don't need to uh we don't need we retain this one, we clear that. Okay, we clear the combo box, the employee ID. The employee ID is not from the current user. Take note anymore because this is only viewing. So it should be the value this time would be coming from the table record. Okay, from the orders table record, order table employee ID. So the current user would be based on someone, based on the table values. This time, let's see, we're viewing. So technically, View sales order. So this time we are not going to capture, we're not going to insert because we're only viewing, remember? So what we will do is we're gonna select actually. So what happened here is that, in fact, in the sales order, I am going to utilize FRM SO details that, let's see, for example, I'm gonna assign already a value to the sales order ID here. Yeah, you see that? I can already assign a value, that text, based on the selected value here. So I'm gonna do db grid one that fields, I believe that's 0 dot value. Is that what we do in the search? A string. Okay, a string lang. At a string. So that's the sales order ID text. So when it displays, I have now the value here as a basis for my transaction. But let me see if that will work. Let's see if it will display. Okay, let's see. Let me use the last one we had. So we actually have the date here already. Let's see view. See, you have the view already, 93. That's 93. I think we also have the other fields here. Okay. Customer ID is already supplied, which is good. So this time, so once this one is loaded, if you go back to the code in the show event, you can see here how the data is actually going to be populated. So we're going to populate that one. So we are going to query. So what are you going to query? Query the sales order info first. Then second is query the sales order details. So this time we'll wait for that one once we have queried the sales order. So here we copy that. We query it first. Okay, let me just always indent your code. It's much easier. So you can do a select asterisk from orders where your ID is equal to uh, just use order ID this time, order ID, which is coming from active equals true. Just says that one. This one is from your EDT sales order ID, EDT underscore sales order ID, the text, SDR to int. Okay. So once we have that one, we are going to assign this one to the particular, let's say DM that, right now we have to link this one actually to the field, field by name. Let's just use the employee ID for now. Okay. Then what else? The date, the customer ID, EDT, customer ID. Okay. You can get rid of that one. This one would be customer ID. The customer details, you have to separately query separately the customer details here. And then what else? Order date, date time picker one, daytime picker one dot date. Date is equal to dm that, I think order date is that as daytime. Okay. just like that. That's order date. Okay, and then we go back. Let's just do that for now. And then we didn't set the status, set also the status. I think we don't have a value for the status, but let me try viewing that one. Transactions, sales order. Oops, sorry, we're supposed to view something here. View. There you are. You have one. This needs to be filled out and so on. So let's continue displaying the details. So we're going to query the details. So remember earlier we needed a new. We inserted a new record, sales order. Okay. Then this time we query the sales order details. So the same, just copy that one. I don't think we need to because it is based on the sales order details. So we just run it. Okay. So let's go back. Let's view that one. Is that the last entry? Or no? Which one is that that has several values? Order details 84. Is this orders? Order details. Let's see. Order ID 84. 84. There you go. You have the sales order 84. You can see the details there. Did we do 85 or 94 earlier? I think we have not yet. I think I got this confused. So, 92. Okay. So basically that's the idea. I'll stop from here. We'll try to continue again. I'll just cut this one here so that I can upload and share it to you guys. Okay.